you are accomplished in Celtic studies and archaeology. Do you think that academic study has helped your spiritual journey? And if so, how?
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. So in undergrad, I was engaging. I was in the pagan community. We were doing Celtic. I was in a circle. I was doing Celtic stuff that was, inspired by Avalon. But what we were doing in that circle and what I was learning as an archaeology student didn't quite mesh for me. So when I went on my own way and went to another state for school, kind of deconstructed a lot of things and then started pulling things back. And it was then that I learned about the Celtic Reconstruction movement and understood that foundational piece was really important. And so I rebuilt from there. And that's what impelled me to do my master's at the University of Wales. I wanted to learn about Welsh culture from Welsh people. And it was brilliant because not only did it put me in contact with people who are really passionate and about these studies, but really I came to realize that academics have been asking the kind of same questions that I had been, and I think the kinds of questions that people who are working, because we talked about this at MoonCon, the ways in which because the various cults were oral, engaged in oral tradition, we don't have so much of any of their direct written ideas or thoughts about things, or how they worship the gods, or how they thought of the gods, or how they thought of cosmology. We only have these things further down the line. So what academia helped me to do, in addition to seeing the ways in which people are like, okay, well, we know this piece, so what do we think the tribes did here? Or how did this tribe differ from this tribe? It really brought home that idea that this wasn't a monolithic culture, that even neighboring peoples, had differences. But it helped me to ask the right questions. It helped me to be able to look at, for example, this medieval piece of literature, the four branches of the Mabinogi, for example, and to be able to say, okay, this is the medieval layer. This is about the contemporary culture. Of course, it's going to be reflected in these tales. They're so important to this culture. There's something in it that was important to them. Why was that? What does even just reading the story tell us about the culture? It talks about so much stuff. Even if the stories never happened, we get the sense of the understanding of the universe and the belief systems of people. How they dressed and their political structures and the fact that they their beliefs about the world, that you can wander into the other worlds, right? That supernatural beings were not it was just an accepted part of culture, and so many things like that. So. Yeah, I loved it. And it's deepened my understanding. It's deepened my ability to connect and, learning to read these primary sources with a discriminating eye has only deepened, as I said, my connection and expanded my worldview. I don't think it's incompatible. And I think sometimes there's a dichotomy in neo-paganism, right? We don't know enough, so then we don't know anything. But that's not true. We know a lot. We don't know everything, but that doesn't mean that what is known isn't important, even if it is down the line, if that makes sense. These aren't myths written by the pagan Celts, but know that there are threads of those traditions in these medieval stories, and it's worth reading them to find those threads and to, unpack them and work with them.
I think we forget a lot when we're looking at deity or looking at spirituality. We forget about the other stuff, like you mentioned, like looking at the culture, at the landscapes, at the clothes they wore, the food they ate. That all, it helps build a picture, doesn't it? And I do think we forget that sometimes when we are looking to connect with deity, for instance. But it's quite important, isn't it?
I think so, because I think, especially when you're reading the stories directly as opposed to retellings of them, there are the people who wrote these things down, the bards who memorized them, they include details about things, colors, animals, times of day, times of year, particular plants. So although we don't have, again, this full, like other cultures might have for their deities, what we can do is build correspondences and learn ways. These are their symbols. These are the animals associated with it. These are the places in the landscape that are associated with them. And so we can connect with them through this little breadcrumb trail because we don't have anything direct from that time period. So what do we have? And how can we take that and use that to build a bridge into relationship with these divinities? I think it's really important.